You ever look up at the moon and just get that sense of timeless mystery? I mean, that same moon has been hanging up there for millennia, a source of wonder, of fear, of inspiration. But have you ever stopped to think about how people saw it before our world was just flooded with artificial light? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to journey back in time and explore the many, many faces of the medieval moon.
Now, our guide for this whole trip is Ayush Lazikani's fantastic book, The Medieval Moon. We're going to be using her research to light up a world that was, well, quite literally lit very differently from our own.
So let me ask you something. When you hear the phrase Middle Ages, what's the first thing that pops into your head? You thinking castles, knights, maybe the plague? Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably something a little on the dark side.
And that's the whole stereotype, right? We call them the Dark Ages. But that's exactly what we're here to challenge. We're about to see a world not of darkness, but one that was illuminated and totally transformed by the steady, mysterious glow of the moon. This was a world filled with riddles, with epic adventures, and some powerful prophecies. And you know what? The moon was right at the heart of it all. It wasn't just some rock in the sky. It was a character, a guide, a real force of nature. So, let's start with our first big idea. To really get the medieval moon, you have to understand that we're not just looking at one moon, we're actually looking at a whole lot of them. The key idea to grasp right away is this: there was no single, universal, medieval moon. Nope. Depending on where you were in the world, it meant something completely different. So we're really talking about medieval moons, plural. And to wrap our heads around this, we're going to borrow the author's method, which she calls the multi-glance. Think of it like putting on different pairs of glasses to look at the same object. We're going to see the moon through the eyes of all these different cultures to build a way richer, way more complex picture. And just look at where this multi-glance is going to take us. We're talking Anglo-Saxon England, medieval Japan, the Islamic world, Dante's Italy, Chaucer's England, even Polynesian traditions and the Mayan civilization. It is a truly global story, all of it unfolding under that same one sky. So, this global perspective brings up a really fundamental question that people back then had to ask. What is the moon? And for a lot of them, the answer wasn't some scientific fact. It was a riddle. Okay, check this out. Here's a riddle from way back in the 10th century Exeter book in England. I saw a creature wondrously carrying plunder between its horns. Any ideas? Think about that phrasing, a creature carrying plunder between its horns. The answer is the moon, the crescent moon, specifically. And what's so amazing is how the riddle brings it to life. The moon isn't just an object, right? It's a warrior carrying stolen light. It's powerful, but it's also vulnerable because it gets chased away by the sun. It has agency. It has a will of its own. And this just illustrates that idea perfectly, how the moon's identity could shift. This table is from an Old Norse poem, and it shows that what you called the moon depended entirely on who you were. For humans, it's the moon. For the gods, just a ball. To giants, it's the goer. And for elves, it's the counter of years. Its name, its very essence, changed depending on who was looking up. So the moon was a mystery, it was a riddle, but it was also something else entirely, a destination. Let's take a look at how medieval storytellers actually imagined traveling there. And wow, these journeys could not be more different. On one hand, you've got this 16th century Italian epic where a knight flies to the moon to get his cousin's lost sanity, which is literally stored in a bottle. In this story, the moon is like a cosmic lost and found, a wasteland for everything that's been wasted on Earth. But then, you jump to a 10th century Japanese tale where a princess travels from the moon. She's exiled to Earth, and for her, the moon is this beautiful, perfect home that she desperately wants to get back to. Two stories, two completely different moons. But not everyone on the moon was a princess. Probably the most famous European lunar resident was actually in exile. A 14th century English poem even gives him a name, Hubert. And his crime? It was so small, he gathered some thorns on a holy day. But his punishment was eternal. He was banished to the cold, lonely face of the moon. The poem even describes the narrator shouting up at him, trying to help, but Hubert never hears. He's just trapped up there, isolated, forever, just beyond our reach. So the moon was a riddle, and it was a destination. But it also kind of had a job to do. It was a clock, it was a calendar, and it was a cosmic signpost that was deeply, deeply connected to fate and the future. Just take Chaucer's great tragedy, Troilus and Chrysaor. I mean, the lover's fate is completely tangled up with the moon. A promise is made based on its position in the sky. A storm, which is caused by the planets aligning with the moon, traps them together. And here's the real kicker. The exact moment Chrysae betrays Troilus in her heart lines up with the exact moment the moon finally moves out of the constellation she swore her promise on. The heavens and human hearts are moving in perfect tragic sync.
And this celestial influence, it wasn't just for epic poems. It trickled right down into daily life through these things called moon books. And as you can see, these 10th century English texts were basically practical guides. You want to steal something and get away with it? Okay, do it on the 5th night of the moon. Thinking about building a ship or finding a wife? Yep, there were good nights for that too. It was pretty much a to-do list written by moonlight. Okay, let's pull all of these threads together for our final look at this incredible world. We've seen the moon as a riddle, as an adventure, and as a cosmic sign. And, I think this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Moonlight does not reveal, it transforms. It changes how we see things. And in that same way, looking back at the medieval world isn't about finding one single clear picture. It's about seeing how our own understanding gets transformed by its strange and really beautiful light. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The medieval period was not a dark age. It was a world lit differently. A world illuminated by countless stories, beliefs, and ideas. A world lit by many, many different moons. Which leaves us with just one final thought. The next time you look up at that familiar face in the sky, think about Hubert the Exile, or Princess Kaguya, or Troilus telling his sorrows to the moon. It's still up there. What stories will you see?